This opening scene leak does not just raise expectations, it resets them. Everything Marvel has trained audiences to expect from an Avengers movie is being deliberately challenged here. No slow build, no easing back into the world, no careful reintroduction of characters. Avengers Doomsday is rumored to begin like a shockwave, the kind that hits before you realize you were standing too close. And if this information is even partially accurate, then Marvel is not trying to remind us why we love the Avengers. They are trying to remind us what it feels like when everything starts to fall apart. For years, Infinity War was the benchmark, the movie that proved Marvel could open big and never let go. But even Infinity War had a rhythm. It escalated. It gave the audience moments to breathe before pulling them back under. This leak suggests Doomsday does not do that. It starts in chaos and stays there. That choice alone tells you how confident Marvel is in the story they are telling. You do not open at full speed unless you know exactly where you are going. The report claims the opening moments of Avengers Doomsday launch directly into large-scale action without explanation. No exposition-heavy setup, no boardroom conversations, no long speeches about the multiverse. Instead, the audience is dropped straight into conflict. And that is important because Marvel has been criticized in recent years for over-explaining, holding the audience hand, treating viewers like they need every detail spelled out. This opening does the opposite. It assumes you already know the stakes. That assumption is earned. Avengers Doomsday is not a standalone film. It is the consequence of everything that came before it. Infinity War, Endgame, Loki, Multiverse of Madness, No Way Home. All of it has been building toward this moment. The opening scene is not there to teach. It is there to confront. Quick thing before we go further. YouTube shows me something wild. More than 99% of people who watch Secret Variant are not subscribed. If you enjoy deep Marvel breakdowns like this and want to stay updated, just hit subscribe. It helps a lot and keeps you locked in for what is coming next. According to the report, the Russos approach Doomsday with one clear mandate. Do not repeat Infinity War or Endgame. That sounds obvious on paper, but it is incredibly difficult in practice. When something works as well as those films did, the temptation to mirror the beats is strong. Big opening, team splits, loss, comeback. Marvel knows that formula now feels predictable. So instead, they are leaning into something more aggressive, relentless momentum. The phrase used repeatedly by insiders is that the film shoots out of the gate like a cannon. That imagery matters. A cannon does not warn you, it does not ramp up, it fires. And once it fires, there is no pulling it back. That is the energy this opening scene is reportedly carrying. Massive scale, immediate danger, and no safety net. What makes this especially interesting is how it contrasts with the marketing so far. The teasers have been calm, almost reflective. Characters talking about unity, preparation, and fear. That calm was never the tone of the movie. It was the breath before impact. Marvel was lulling the audience into a false sense of familiarity before detonating the story. This opening approach also solves a major problem Doomsday faced. How do you introduce dozens of characters from different universes without spending half the runtime explaining who they are? The answer is, you do not. You let action define them. You show alliances through movement. You show conflict through positioning. You trust the audience to recognize faces and fill in gaps emotionally rather than logically. This is classic Russo storytelling. Winter Soldier did this on a smaller scale. Civil War did it with a massive ensemble. Infinity War perfected it. Doomsday is simply applying that philosophy to the multiverse itself. Another crucial detail is the idea that Doomsday does not give the audience time to orient themselves. That is intentional. Confusion is part of the experience. Characters are confused. Worlds are colliding. Nothing feels stable. If the audience feels slightly off balance, that means the movie is doing its job. This also explains why the Russos reportedly avoided heavy exposition. No Reed Richards explaining incursions in a room. No Beast lecturing about timelines. Those scenes slow momentum and undercut urgency. Doomsday is not about understanding the multiverse. It is about surviving it. One of the most discussed rumors tied to this opening is the possibility that the film begins in a different universe entirely. Possibly Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man world. That choice would be devastating and brilliant. Opening with a familiar hero in a familiar world only to show it being destroyed immediately sets the tone. No one is safe. If that rumor is true, then Doomsday is not just escalating stakes, it is erasing comfort. It is telling the audience that legacy does not protect you. History does not guarantee survival. That is a powerful message to send in the first 10 minutes. Even if Tobey Spider-Man is not the opening focus, the idea remains the same. The film starts with loss. Immediate, irreversible loss. Something that cannot be undone by time travel travel, or magic. That loss becomes the emotional engine for everything that follows. This also reframes Dr. Doom role. Doom does not need a grand entrance if the world is already burning. His presence is felt through consequence, through destruction that appears coordinated, controlled, purposeful. Doom is not chaos. He is order imposed through devastation. The opening scene reportedly establishes this clearly. The destruction is not random. It has intent. That is terrifying, because it suggests someone is already several steps ahead. Another interesting aspect is how this opening challenges the idea of audience fatigue. There has been a narrative that people are tired of big action Marvel movies. That may be true when action exists for its own sake, but when action carries, meaning when it pushes story forward relentlessly, it becomes engaging rather than exhausting. Infinity War proved that. Doomsday seems to be applying that lesson without restraint. No filler, no pauses, just consequence stacked on consequence. The Russos also understand something crucial. Big movies do not fail because of scale. They fail because of pacing. A movie can have massive action and still feel boring if the stakes are unclear. Starting Doomsday with overwhelming action immediately clarifies the stakes. This is not a story about saving everything. It is about preventing total annihilation. This opening also buys the film narrative freedom later. When things slow down later in the movie, those moments will feel earned. They will feel heavy rather than dull because the audience has already been through the fire. Marvel also seems aware of skepticism surrounding the MCU right now. Fans have earned their doubts. There have been missteps, over-explanation, underwhelming finales. Doomsday opening the way it reportedly does feels like Marvel acknowledging that skepticism and responding directly, not with promises but with execution. This is not a trailer promise. This is a structural choice, and structural choices are harder to fake. Another layer here is box office psychology. Movies that open strong often have better legs because word of mouth spreads immediately. If audiences walk out saying the movie starts insane and never stops, that becomes the narrative. That matters more than marketing slogans. The pressure on Doomsday is immense, bigger than Infinity War, bigger than Endgame, not just financially but culturally. This is Marvel proving whether the Avengers still matter, whether the shared universe still works. Starting with a bold opening is the only way to justify that pressure. The idea that the film avoids repeating Endgame beats is especially important. No portals moment rehash, no mirror imagery, no emotional manipulation. The Russos know that trying to recreate those highs would feel hollow. Instead, they are aiming for something different. Fear, urgency, instability. This opening scene philosophy also suggests that Doomsday is not about comfort or closure. It is about disruption. A movie that exists to break the status quo, so Secret Wars can rebuild it. That makes Doomsday less of a finale and more of a catalyst. Before we move into the final stretch, make sure you are subscribed to Secret Variant so you do not miss future breakdowns as Avengers Doomsday continues to reveal more details. At the end of the day, this opening scene leak feels right. Not because it promises bigger explosions, but because it promises intent. A film that knows exactly what it wants to be and refuses to apologize for it. Avengers Doomsday opening at full speed tells us Marvel is done easing audiences in. The countdown is over. The damage is happening now. And whether heroes are ready or not, the end of the world is not going to wait for them to catch their breath.